This isn't conducive to recording, mister. No. Hello, and welcome to my full show review of NJPW New Year Dash 2026. It took place yesterday on the 5th of January. However, I just watched it this morning and thought I'd give my thoughts. I enjoyed Wrestle Kingdom, enjoyed doing a review for it. Seems some people enjoyed me having done a review for it as well, gained a few subs. Thank you very much, anyone who subscribed from that. So yeah, I thought I would keep that ball rolling and try and keep up with New Japan a little bit this year. It would definitely be my second choice for company to keep up with, behind AEW, which is sort of my home field, if you like, at this point. So yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. And obviously I'll probably only do like reviews and maybe predictions for like the big shows. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, I'm going to do the review. I took my notes on my phone, so if you catch me, doing that, that's just, review notes. But quite often I put a graphic on the screen anyway and talk behind it, so maybe it won't matter. I don't know why I'm saying this. Let's crack on, shall we? So, we started the show with a highlights package from Wrestle Kingdom. Pretty well put together, actually. During the Wrestle Kingdom review, I did criticize New Japan's production, especially during the Never Openweight 6-man championship Rambo. But I thought this video package was quite nicely put together. I didn't super pay real close attention to it because I've just watched Wrestle Kingdom, but I thought it was a nice touch to give a cliff notes for anyone who missed Wrestle Kingdom but now wanted to get into it, or anyone maybe who heard good things about Wrestle Kingdom and were like, you know what, I'll watch the next show and see what it's all about. Good to give them a starting point of what they're jumping into. It was basically a previously kind of flashback thing that TV series do. I quite liked it. Anyway, the first match was Katsuya Murashima, who was the Young Lion who picked up the win in the first match on Wrestle Kingdom on the pre-show, in the Young Lions tag match. Yuya Uemura and Shota Umino. They were taking on Satoshi Kojima, Taichi, and Tomohiro Ishii. So 5 of these 6, the other 5 other than Murashima, were in the Rambo for the Never Sixes. And this match, how can I put this? When you've got one Young Lion in a match, it's fairly predictable which side's going to win. It's the side without the Young Lion. 9 times out of 10, if not more, probably 99 out of 100 in New Japan, to be honest. But this was fine. I'm gonna just give a sweeping statement about New Year Dash at the start of the review here, just so I don't have to keep repeating myself. Most of the matches were quite short, quite simple, nothing spectacular, but enjoyable enough. I think that's a fair assessment of the show as a whole. Is nothing all that spectacular, but pretty good. Pretty good quality throughout, and setting things up rather than trying to make massive moments, if you like. There was a couple of noteworthy moments that I will talk about, but yeah. So Ishii made Murashima tap with the Boston Crab, and I put, because commentary talked about it so much, he's been talking about it apparently, and in press conferences and interviews and what have you, and just how kind of ready he looks. I put Murashima must be going on excursion now, surely, which I said in the Wrestle Kingdom review was that the last time we'll see him? Was this the last time we'll see him? I hope so. Not ever, obviously, but I hope so for a while, because I do think he's ready to go on excursion, and the sooner he goes, the sooner he comes back and can be made into a star. Yeah, so hopefully we don't see him again for a while, which sounds mean, but I actually mean it in the most well-wishing way possible. There was a post-match stare down where Uemura and Umino's got in the faces of Taichi and Ishii, and then Umino attacked Ishii, who then floored him with a headbutt. So yeah, they're setting up something there, which we'll get to later. Next match was Sho Makato, who I think was the Young Lion who took the fall, who tapped. Oh, it might have been his partner. Either way, I think he was on the losing side in the tag match on Wrestle Kingdom. He was teaming with El Fantasma against Rocky Romero and Konosuke Takeshita. Takeshita, who the day before was world champion. and there's a young lion on the other side. I wonder who's winning this tag match. Now, this was interesting because Takeshita, in the first match, Ishii making Murashima tap out with the Boston Crab kind of felt like putting a young lion back in his place kind of thing, because Murashima has been sort of speaking up as being ready, and I think, you know, it was supposed to read as like Ishii going back to basics to put him back in his place and be like, you're still not anywhere near this level, young kid. This one, Takeshita made Kato tap with the Boston Crab, but that felt like an entirely different story because Takeshita just tapped out at Wrestle Kingdom to the Boston Crab, so that felt like Takeshita making a point of being like, yeah, okay, fine, you got me, but anything you can do kind of thing on my day I can do as well. And I did make a note that it'd be hilarious if the whole show was just people tapping out to Boston Crabs in every match. After the match, ELP squared up to Takeshita, and the commentators talked about how Takeshita's a prize fighter, and ELP has a prize, the TV title, that he likes to defend frequently. And I would love to see ELP versus Takeshita in a one-on-one match. I think that'd be tremendous. Especially because I'm not sure I would see Takeshita winning the TV title there, so it'd be an opportunity for a really big win for ELP as well, even if they did something a little bit dodgy with the finish, a little bit, scuffed with the finish, still be a really, really good win for ELP, and I'm always in favour of that. And even if Takeshita did win the TV title, there's no shame in that for ELP, but I would have at least some hope that El Phantasmo might actually retain the title there, which would be fun. Next match was Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Yujiro Takahashi, which I've just noticed is either misspelled or autocorrected in my phone. Let's change that. And Sanada versus Boltin Oleg. I learnt his first name. Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto. Sanada came out with a goodbye NJPW, see you next fucking time on his guitar, which hopefully I remembered to censor because it was censored on the guitar. And then apparently he said in a post-show press conference that he's stepping away from the ring and going on a trip with no further details. So I don't know if this is like a story thing for Sanada, or if he's genuinely taking some time off and he's just announcing it in an in-character kind of way. Time will tell, right? But it's a shame because I heard good things about Sanada, and then I enjoyed his work on Wrestle Kingdom, and as much as the show was quite simple and basic and short matches, I enjoyed him in this match as well. And I've always kind of liked Sanada. He's least, to me, the least interesting he's been was when he was world champion and he was in Just 4 Guys / Just 5 Guys. But everything else I've always kind of enjoyed with Sanada. So I hope he's not away for long if he is actually going away. And if it's like a kayfabe thing or like a bit of time to heal an injury, then time will tell, right? Oleg pinned Takahashi after a triple team, which I believe they called the Sleep in Dirt, which is like their new triple team finisher, Oleg, Hashi, and Goto. It's basically Yoshihashi and Goto hold their opponent like a hammock, and then Oleg like splashes on them, essentially. That's essentially what it is. When the commentary team were bigging it up as their new triple team finish, I was maybe expecting something a little bit more spectacular than that. But whatever. Sad to see, even if Sanada really is taking time away from wrestling, that Takahashi's still the one to take the fall here. But, again, like I said with the Young Boys, if there's only one of them in the match, that team's losing. If there's only one Yujiro Takahashi in the match, that team's probably losing as well. Because that does seem to be what he does for the most part, as part of House of Torture. Next match, this was United Empire, represented by Jacob Austin Young, who I'm not familiar with, Francesco Akira and Andrade El Idolo, taking on Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd of the War Dogs and Hiromu Takahashi. And as far as I remember, Young wasn't featured at Wrestle Kingdom, right? He wasn't even in the ring for their post-match celebration or anything. There was no Tekla with Connors during his entrance, so as far as I'm concerned, that's a heel turn by Connors. And it's still bizarre to see Hiromu teaming up with Bullet Club. Really strange. And really strange to see, Bullet Club, War Dogs specifically, turn face. Some incarnations of Bullet Club have felt like the Elite era, have felt like they worked as faces. this group feels like it should just be heel, but you know, it seems to be working. People seem to be behind them for the time being. I hope it's a short-lived face run. Honestly, I think they're much better suited to being heels. Andrade pinned Clark Connors after, I think, so in WWE, I think he started calling it The Message. I don't know if he still calls it that or if he's renamed it out of WWE, but that double underhook, it looks like it's going to be a Death Rider. He, like, lifts them up to then spike them with, like, an elevated double underhook DDT. But then Andrade kind of spins through it and turns it into almost a neck breaker, or a spinning suplex. It's quite a cool-looking finisher. Let me know in the comments if it is called The Message or if it's been renamed. Then after the match, Gabe Kidd and Andrade brawled, and then Kidd got on the mic and set up a #1 contender match for the Global Championship. At New Beginning in Osaka, I think he said. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. He definitely said New Beginning, but yeah. So that should be a really fun match. Andrade, I think being surrounded by like WWE size guys, and I know the size thing isn't as big a thing anymore, but you sort of don't really appreciate just how built Andrade really is. Like are these your lats? I think these are your lats here, right? His are like here. They're ludicrous. Like when he stands like and does like the proper hench pose, he's just pure muscle. It's very impressively built. And aside from how he looks, he's obviously a tremendous wrestler. Like my first exposure to Andrade was when he came to NXT, and then I've seen him in NXT, main roster, AEW, main roster, AEW for a literal one entrance, and then back in NJPW, and he's really good, and I'm really high on Gabe Kidd since last year's match with Kenny Omega that I thought was just phenomenal. So really looking forward to that match. Think it's going to be great. Up next was House of Torture, represented by Dick Togo, Don Farley, Ren Narita, and Evil, and they were taking on Toru Yano, Master Wato, Yo, and Aaron Wolf, the new Never Openweight champion, who beat Evil at Wrestle Kingdom in his first match. During Yano's ridiculously long, sponsorship-riddled introduction, House of Torture attacked, and then we had like a fairly standard 8-man House of Torture style match with a load of cheating and comedy heel bits and what have you, until Yo made Dick Togo tap with a Texas Cloverleaf. So yeah, I imagined that either Aaron Wolf was going to win or Evil was going to beat Aaron Wolf to set up like a rematch between them, but it doesn't look like that's the case. But Yo actually, like, I think I might have mentioned it, used a Texas Cloverleaf, not a Boston Crab, and people started, the commentary team started talking about it being a nod to someone. I don't know if, like, there's a connection between Yo and, like, the people I think of with the Texas Cloverleaf are Dean Malenko first and foremost, and I know Sheamus used it for quite a while in WWE. I don't know who outside of those has really used a Cloverleaf, so maybe it's something I don't get. So, again, let me know in the comments if that was a nod to someone that I'm just not aware of. After the match, House of Torture attacked, because of course they did, but it was actually Ren Narita that took out Aaron Wolf with a metal bar and left him laying. So I wonder if they're going to keep the feud between House of Torture and Aaron Wolf going, but not have it be Evil straight away and kind of build to the Evil rematch, where Evil might even win the belt back eventually, but give Aaron Wolf a few defenses against lower House of Torture guys first, and Ren Narita would be a good pick for that. Next match, so this was again United Empire. Callum Newman, Henare, Great O'Khan, and Jake Lee taking on Drilla McLoney and David Finlay of War Dogs, and Shingo Takagi and Yota Tsuji, the new double champion, the new, well, I was going to say world champion, we'll get to that in a second, but the new world champion and global champion. So this firmly establishes that Bullet Club War Dogs are just kind of standard baby faces at this point. Like, they don't act like standard baby faces. They've still got a bit of edge to them. They've still got a bit of, like, the heel personality to them, even though they're faces. They still come across quite vicious. But, yeah, they're just faces. They're teaming up with the face world champion. Now, speaking of the face world champion, Yota Tsuji, in the build-up to his match with Takeshita, talked about re-establishing the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, not the World Heavyweight Championship, and kind of just slotting the World Heavyweight Championship lineage into the Heavyweight Championship lineage, and acknowledging all the history of New Japan. And yep, sure as anything, he had a coat covering his waist, and if you didn't see what was coming, I don't know what to tell you. Everyone knew. You could even see like the top of the belt, which was not shaped like the old World Championship, which is kind of that way, whereas the Heavyweight Championship is like curved this way. So yeah, and it's massive. It's like this big. Like, hang on, my hand's not even on screen, but it's like this big. The Heavyweight Championship. I don't know if it was bringing back the previous belt or if it was a brand new belt. Someone with keener eyes than me can let me know, I suppose, in the comments if that was like a new iteration of the Heavyweight Championship or if they brought back the one that got retired. I don't know. But, yeah, so he got to do the big reveal where he took the coat off and was like, yeah, look, the big... And then he held both titles up. And, like, the global title is so tiny compared with the massive, like, heavyweight title. So, yeah, it just looks a bit silly. But I think my feeling is he's probably going to have quite a run with the heavyweight title, but drop the global title quite soon. Possibly as soon as the winner of Gabe Kidd and Andrade, to be honest. I could see that. Because putting the global title into United Empire would be like a good sort of step towards making them really credible. If the way they were built at Wrestle Kingdom, as if it's going to be like quite a big year for them, that'd be a decent starting point, I think, for sure. And beating the world champion for it as well, you know, double bonus, right? Anyway, so Tsuji then got on the microphone and told Jake Lee, you can't just take over a year off and then immediately jump the queue and get a title shot. You're going to have to convince me. You like to talk to me, and handed him the microphone. And then Jake Lee did the world's most obvious fake out as if he was going to talk, and then just attacked, and all of United Empire attacked. And then the match progressed, and eventually Hanare pinned Driller Maloney after a double powerbomb where Great Okan was kind of holding his face. Like, you know, I think Okan does this slam, doesn't he, where he grabs the face and choke slams them instead of the throat. So it's not really a choke slam, but it's the same gesture. So he kind of did that as the assist and then pinned him. Hanare pinned him. So it's interesting that they didn't even have Jake Lee pick up the pin on anyone from the other team after Tsuji saying, show me why you deserve a shot. I'm kind of surprised they didn't just have Jake Lee, again, one-hand pin someone. But we'll see how it goes. They tell stories differently in Japan. I have to get back into like the mindset of how they do things in Japan. The American way would almost certainly have been for Jake Lee to either beat Tsuji or beat someone like Finlay, or actually, you know who'd be a good pick would be Takagi. With one hand, like he did Takahashi, like, you know, a big statement pin again. That'd be like the American way, I think. But yeah, I have to get back into the Japanese mindset of how they tell stories. Let's see. After the match, Great Okan dropped Takagi on his head. Jake Lee was like sexually harassing the heavyweight title belt. And then Lee did like a little dance in the ring and then handed the title to Tsuji, then slapped him. But then Tsuji slapped him back and he properly like sort of wooden board sold it, just like went over stiff as a board. Like he'd been completely knocked out, which was, I don't know. I can't figure out what they want, what Jake Lee wants to be, what they want Jake Lee to be, how much of a threat they want him to be. Because he's like, he came back really stoic, really straight-faced, and then he pinned Takahashi with one hand, you know, like big deal. And then at this show, he's kind of doing these weird dances, and he's almost overselling a slap, as if he's been knocked clean out, and I don't know, it just felt like two different guys almost, and I don't know if that's going to be a thing where he's like a bit split personality, or if he's just a bit wacky and he does both, you know, or like, I don't know. Let's watch and wait and see, I guess. Also after the match, Finlay was throwing chairs into the ring at Callum Newman, and then Newman challenged Finlay, and said, this isn't the empire you left to crumble in Osaka, which, to be honest, I didn't remember that Finlay was in the United Empire, was he? Is that who he turned heel on to join Bullet Club, was United Empire? Because it's one of these stories, this, where everything about why United Empire are mad at everyone they're mad at feels quite justified, except Takahashi, who they just attacked for to make sure that everyone sees them as the heels would be my guess. But like everything else feels quite justified, that like why they're mad and who they're mad at, but they're the heels, they're the bad guys here, but you know, whatever. Anyway, so he said, yeah, this isn't the empire you'll have to crumble in Osaka, this is a brand new empire. And then Will Ospreay's music hit. He came out and had a stare down with Finlay, which again, I can't remember. I think I watched Ospreay's last match, that big, it was like a 5-on-5 cage match, right? Did Finlay turn his back on them in that? Did he turn his back on them before it and go against them in it? Did he turn his back on them just after that? I can't really remember. It was a couple of years ago now, and I've not been paying loads of attention to New Japan, so it's not been taking up active space in my memory, so it's kind of disappeared a bit. But yeah, someone let me know how that went down. But yeah, Finlay was like guided away by Gedo, like that you don't need to get into this. And then Ospreay got into the ring, shared a hug with Hanare, a very sincere seeming handshake with Great Okan, and nothing with Jake Lee, and nothing with Newman, who and then he apologized for leaving and said he didn't realize how much he was holding the team together and that it would crumble without him, and then said when he's healthy, he's got some business to take care of in AEW, then he's coming back to New Japan to help the United Empire and help Callum Newman, and says he'll do it Newman's way, which is interesting because they're very much cemented as heels. Will Ospreay is very much cemented as a face, and I think that's going to be a really interesting like dynamic to explore, where he wants to help his friend, but he's going to be conflicted, right? Because his friend's going to want him to do some horrible stuff. And also his friend isn't his friend. Because, like, they hugged and there was, like, this look of insincerity, like, look of apathy towards the hug on Newman's face. Which was, by the way, if I'm going to slate New Japan's production during the Rambo, this was well done. Like, they had the shot exactly where they needed it to be. They had throughout this segment, especially, like, I think this show was generally okay for it. But throughout this segment, I was very aware that the camera was pointing us at exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. It was well produced, in my opinion. And then Will Ospreay was like, come on, let's put crowns up. And 4 of them, Ospreay, Hanare, Okan, and Jake Lee, stood across the front of the ring with the... I can't remember how they... did it. Is it that? I think they do that, right? They had the crowns up. But then Newman wasn't doing it, and he was just sort of looking at Ospreay, and then he slowly like folds up the chair that he was sat in. One of the ones Finlay threw at him in the ring, he just unfolded it and sat in it this whole time. He only got up to hug Ospreay, and then he grabbed the chair and folded it and was like looking at Ospreay, ready to hit him. And then Hanare and Great Okan stopped him. So they're not in on a plan to ambush Ospreay. They are actually glad Ospreay's back. Newman isn't, but Hanare and Okan have been on board with the heel mentality of United Empire so far. So it's going to be this really interesting dynamic where there's going to be like definite heel guys, because Andrade, Newman, and Jake Lee are going to be like definite heels, and probably that Jacob Austin Young guy, he and Akira, they're going to be on they're all just really committed to the heel bit. Akira might be interesting because he might be loyal to Ospreay, I can't remember. But then you've got Ospreay, who's definitely a face, who's going to feel uncomfortable with the tactics. And then you're going to have Okan and Hanare, who are fine doing the heel stuff, but they're not going to be fine with the potential turn on Ospreay. So they're going to be like kind of really caught in the middle, and I think that's going to be really interesting to see that play out. So I hope the story's told really well, because it could be potentially very interesting as it goes on. Anyway, next match was a Fatal 4-Way Tornado tag match, no tags at all here, for the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. It's one championship, 2 belts. And it was Robbie X and Taiji Ishimori taking on Kosei Fujita and Robbie Eagles, taking on Kukai and El Desperado, and the champions Sho and Doki. Now Sho cut just like a smack talking promo before the match, but then as everyone kind of went for them, they ducked out the ring, but then Kukai took them out, so that was a fun start. I really like House of Torture's shtick. I see what people say when... I understand why some people are like, this isn't New Japan, I hate House of Torture, but the kind of the perfect heels for they're really good for the Japanese crowd because they genuinely hate them, but they're also really good heels for like the foreign crowd, of which I am definitely a member, that they're trying to attract, the American audience, the European audience, that they are drawing in, that they've been on a mission to draw in basically since Jericho Omega, where like they feel like an American heel faction. They're cheating, they're talking smack and running away. They feel more relatable, and I can see why a lot of international fans like them, and not just international in the sense of being not from Japan, but international in the sense of our main wrestling knowledge isn't Japanese. You can be from anywhere in the world, but if your main wrestling fandom is Japan, you probably hate House of Torture, and on a kind of meta level as well, not just on their heels level. Whereas if you're newer to the Japanese product and have come mainly from American wrestling, you probably get that they're heels and supposed to be hated, but quite like their routine. And I'm definitely in the latter camp for sure. Anyway, one of the highlights of this match, again, I'm not doing much play-by-play in matches because, like, go watch the show. It was a good show. Same as I didn't in Wrestle Kingdom. But one of the things I did like was Vegeta using show's Black Mirror, which is basically just a black, shiny metal sheet, like thinner than a cookie tray. It's just, it's basically hitting him with aluminium, but it's fine. He used that to take out all of House of Torture, including blocking Kanemaru trying to interfere by spitting whiskey in his face. He blocked it with the mirror and then hit him with it. I thought that was a really fun little detail of like having them scouted. I love stuff like that in wrestling where someone has someone's shtick scouted and counters it. Big fan. Anyway, Vegeta ended up pinning Robbie X after a double team with Eagles that I didn't bother to detail what the double team was. I guess in my head I was like, I will remember. I have literally already forgotten. What the hell was that double team? Don't know, Jeff. Okay, well, anyway, they pinned Robbie Eagles. Vegeta and no, they pinned Robbie X. Vegeta and Robbie Eagles are the new champions. Too many Robbies. There was a fun moment, by the way, where the Robbies were facing off and the crowd were actually chanting Robbie, 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 which is fun because that's a very Americanized thing. So it was fun for me to hear that, and I think it speaks to how big Wrestle Kingdom is, and like the big deal that's always made about WrestleMania and the Raw after WrestleMania and the crowds is how much of it has historically been like foreign fans who have saved up and made a point of going. And I feel like Wrestle Kingdom's getting that same vibe now, and New Year Dash is kind of the Raw after Wrestle Kingdom, where you've got like this rowdy crowd that's not just traditional New Japan fans. It's got like people that have gotten into it over the last few years, either through AEW or through like Jericho going over there and the former WWE fans, or whatever their path in has been, like myself. You've got that sort of side of the crowd, and it brings a different dimension to it that I think is a lot of fun. I don't think it's overpowering, which I think is good. I think if it just turned into seeming like an American crowd, I think it would be a bit rubbish. But I like the little mix where you get these rumblings of like foreign crowds, but most of the show is still treated as if the whole audience is Japanese. I think it's quite a good mix. Anyway, after the match, Francesco Akira attacked Taichi Ishimori, which I'm not sure what the issue there is, but then he was chased off by Hiromu, and then Hiromu challenged Akira to any fight on behalf of both him and Ishimori, and Akira said into like the commentary headset, the English commentary, fortunately, so we heard it, that yeah, you'll fight them anytime, any place, any way. And I was like, is this a challenge for him to like bring a tag partner? Because that might be hinting that TJP is also coming back to United Empire soon. Although I think Jacob Austin Young is probably a junior heavyweight as well, so he could be Akira's tag partner now, I guess. So it could be a tag match challenge, but it could also have been like a triple threat kind of situation, or even 2 singles matches, like taking turns in single matches. But like, yeah, the way it was like framed kind of felt like it was going to be a tag situation, so it'll be interesting to see, is it going to be Young, or is it going to be maybe TJP coming back? I know not everyone, myself included, is super thrilled for TJP to come back, but I think if you're going to watch New Japan, you kind of have to accept sometimes that they are outright going to ignore some political stuff. It's rightly or wrongly, it seems to me to be quite an anglophonic cultural thing, in that it seems to have happened in Brit Wres and it seems to have happened in American wrestling to an extent. WWE not great at this, and that's part of the reason I don't watch them anymore. In fact, it's most of the reason I don't watch them anymore. but like it's quite a thing with the audience and with the company to try and not have anyone with too much controversy knocking around. Looking at you, WWE, Brock Lesnar. Speaking of which, need to redo my intro so I don't have to keep blurring Lesnar, because it's a good bit, but I'm gonna get sick of doing the extra little bit of editing every time, because I've not made a new intro with him blurred, because if I was going to do that I would just make a new intro without him. I just, every time I make a video for this channel I have to blur him in the editing, and I'm gonna forget at some point and it'll annoy me, but also like I want a new intro. I've had that one for ages. Anyway, sidebar, blur. My point is, what was my point? Oh, it seems like the Mexican companies, and probably not AAA anymore because they're owned by WWE, so they're kind of subscribed to a more American business model. But CMLL don't seem to care. AAA were running with Alberto until WWE bought them. Alberto El Patron. And the fans were actually kind of mad that he got kicked out of the company when WWE bought them. So that's like how much that audience seems to care about what sort of human being you are, as opposed to what sort of performer you are. And New Japan has a bit of a history of skirting some controversial people that are basically persona non grata in America as well. And I can't remember exactly what it is that TJP was accused of, or how guilty he was definitely found to be or not. I can't remember, but I know his name's kind of mud in America. So, but it just wouldn't surprise me to see him back in New Japan, even though I'd be quite happy with him never turning up again. Anyway, blah, 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 rant over. Main event was, right, and I'm going to struggle with this, because this name is probably the most challenging name I've ever heard to say in terms of, like, Japanese names. It just feels like there's too many vowels without anything solid between them, and I really struggle to get my mouth around it, so excuse me while I attempt this. Ryohei Oiwa. You know I'm going to take that. That's take one, and I'm going to take that. Teaming up with Zack Sabre Jr., to challenge the Knockout Brothers, which is Yuto Ice, whose name I didn't catch yesterday at Wrestle Kingdom. Apologies, Mr. Ice. And Oscar, for the Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. And this was the best and longest match, both by far. This felt like an actual, like, main event, like, quality match, whereas the rest of the card felt, and I know the rest of the card wasn't fillery. Even the IWGP Junior Tag title match felt really short, considering it was like a 4-way tornado tag, bunch of guys who can do a bunch of really good stuff. I think it went like maybe 10-12 minutes, and it felt really cut short. When it finished, I was like, oh, wow, really, already? I thought, like, I had assumed that was a false finish. This match got some time. I don't know how long it got, but it was upwards of 20 minutes easily, maybe 25. And it was a really good match, really enjoyed it, good storytelling, and it finished, there's a lot, so what I didn't know is there's a lot of animosity between Yuto Ice and Oiwa over, they were in the dojo system together, but they come from very different backgrounds. And the story is, who knows how true this is, probably not at all, it's probably all kayfabe, but the story is that they didn't get along in the dojo, then they went on excursion and come back, and they're just continuing to not get along. So there was a lot between them going on, which I thought was fun. And Ice ended up pinning Oiwa after KOB, they called it, which is also their name, the Knockout Brothers. So I don't know what KOB, the finisher, stands for. Again, enlighten me in the comments if you know. But it's basically Oscar doing a tombstone, but kind of more falling forwards than straight down. After... oh, that's me waving my phone around. I scrolled it. I don't know if I caught the screen and did that, or if just even my phone does that. Anyway, and Ice does like a PK to the back of the head before the tombstone, so when they're upside down, he like boots them in the back of the head, and then they get dropped. Yeah, really fun match, and after it, Shota Umino and Yuya Uemura, who's another one I kind of struggle with his name because of that Uemura, that feels like there should be something in there, consonant for me, personally. They come out to challenge the Knockout Brothers. The crowd are booing, which I'm not sure if they're supposed to be heels at this point. I think they're supposed to be faces, but I get the feeling New Japan knows that they're not being that well received, and they probably will be definitely heels soon if they're not already. And then they're chanting for Oiwa, who just lost the match and was being escorted away by Zack Sabre Jr. Oscar was like dismissively waving them away, and then Taichi and Ishii come out, and then I think it was Taichi suggests a triple threat between the three teams, and Ice is just like, no, how about you two teams fight, and we'll fight the winners. We'll defend our titles against the winners. So a number 1 contender match set up, which is what I was talking about earlier when I said more on that later from that potential feud. Yeah, they are doing that match as like a 2-on-2 instead of just a 3-on-3. And then Taichi accepts that, so there's going to be a number 1 contender match between Ishii and Taichi and Uemura and Umino. And then they all left, and then Ice got to do the closing speech, and he made a lot of references to, we've lost an ace, but we've gained an Ice. And I feel like Ice is trying to position himself as that guy who can be relied on to do that end speech and be really good at it, because this was a really impassioned speech about, look, I'm not going to be Tanahashi, I'm not going to be smiling and waving and kissing babies, but I'm going to be passionate, I'm going to be fighting my heart out, or whatever the expression, I probably just crossed about 7 metaphors there. But, you know, like, I will fight, and I will be as passionate about professional wrestling as the fans are, and blah blah blah. So it was a really rah-rah babyface promo without being a happy smiley I love the fans babyface promo, which is nice. It's nice to know that, and I think New Japan is quite good at this, of having different types of faces and heels and different like dynamics within those types of faces and heels, where faces won't always get along with faces because they have opposing philosophies regarding wrestling, and thus they clash, which this feels more like synergy than clashing, but whatever. So yeah, it was a really good rah-rah speech, I thought, by Ice, and the commentary team, the English commentary team, were even quite sort of surprised. I think one of them was even like, who knew he could talk like that? And it's like, I think he was like told he was going to get to do the go home chat, and he was like, right, I'm taking this ball and I'm going to try and run with it, and I'll see if it works, because he really felt like he did. Few press conference comments that I either heard commentary talk about or I heard myself. Takeshita said that he's going to be sticking around in 2026 in New Japan. Looks like we're going to get the match with El Phantasmo for sure, but it sounds like he's going to probably stick around for another year and be at Next Wrestle Kingdom, but probably not in quite as prominent a spot. He'll probably be in the G1 though. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't in the G1 again. Tsuji talked about a new faction called the Unbound Company, which on its surface feels like a very, this probably sounds cool in Japanese, but when you translate it into English it sounds a bit lame kind of name, which you get a lot of, in my opinion, in Japanese wrestling, where it's like, when you translate it into English, it's like, oh, this, it just sounds weird as like a faction. But like, I think accounting for the fact that it's probably not translated perfectly, it's probably a lot more impactful in Japanese. And I don't mean translated perfectly as in there's been a mistake, as what I mean is words don't directly one-to-one line up when you translate them, and I feel like it's probably just a cooler and more impactful name in Japanese. But the point seems to be, Tsuji has been like pushing back against New Japan in a sense that he wanted the heavyweight title back and he's got it. He has apparently said that he will refuse to defend the heavyweight championship unless he's in the main event doing so. Not from an ego perspective for him, but because the championship should be the top thing. So it feels like he's, within kayfabe, pressing New Japan back to being more traditional and back to being more what they're meant to be, more historic, more paying attention to their past, more proud of their lineage, and blah blah blah. And I feel like this faction is going to be a bunch of babyfaces that want the best for New Japan and disagree with management on what that is. And I think that's quite an interesting little thing that won't play out loads, but whenever New Japan want to make a change, and especially if it's a change back towards something traditional, such as bringing back the Heavyweight Championship instead of the World Heavyweight Championship, this can be their faction to do it with, like to make a story out of it, instead of just like, oh, there's a new belt now. Now it can be like, oh yeah, there's a new belt now, and this is why. And I think that's quite cool. And I think early candidates for it are Takahashi and Takagi. And then they can either be aligned with Bullet Club War Dogs, or they could maybe even absorb Bullet Club War Dogs, because I think the Bullet Club War Dogs branding makes them feel heel as well. So I'm not sure about that. For me, there's also potential for like the people who, to me, have been unaffiliated for a long time, like Yano, Yo, and Wato, and Aaron Wolf. Aaron Wolf could bring in a new Never belt, a better Never belt, or bring back the old Never belt as part of this, now that he's got it, if he joins this. And I think he'd be a decent fit because he chose to shave his head and wear the black trunks, right? So he chose to go traditional, even though New Japan management hadn't insisted upon it for him. He chose to do it. He chose to go the traditional route, despite management not really caring about the tradition. And I think that fits really nicely in. And he's been closely aligned with like Yano and Master Wato and Show's the one in. I always forget just because they came in as a tag team and the names are very similar. I always struggle, but Show is the one in House of Torture. Yes, so Yo. It's Yano and Yo. Double Y. Got it. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. The point is, I think those guys would be good candidates for this faction. I don't know who else is even, like, available, who else is already not in a faction, but someone could always leave a faction to join as well. So I think it'll be really interesting to watch this new faction form around the world champion. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Anyway, what else? Oh, Oscar... Oscar and Ice went backstage and did a press conference. Now, did you watch this one? And Oscar just buried the never openweight 6-man championships. He was like, "Oh yeah, congratulations TMDK, you got the least important titles in the company. Like, no one cares about those belts. Like, who cares?" Like, and I was like, "Wow, way to just bury a championship." Like, and I'm like, he's not wrong. Because it's defended in like a Rambo in the opening match, like it's not really been built properly. It's not. I can't like. It's not a. When was the last time that title mattered? When Okada and Tanahashi and whoever else it was, probably Yano or someone, I can't remember, had it. Like when was the last time that mattered? That belt, that championship. It's I don't know, but really interesting to hear someone actually say it, an actual wrestler in the company, to say that a title doesn't matter. Like imagine if like. In the build-up to Hangman versus Fletcher, which is about where I'm up to in catching up with AEW at the moment. Imagine if Hangman had been like, yeah, great, you're the TNT title, that belt does not matter. Like, and I mean, granted, that's not really true. The TNT title is better positioned than the Never Sixes, but still. Oh, sorry about that, still pretty ill. But like, yeah, just imagine if that was said in any sort of official capacity in AEW, WWE being like, yeah, great, you're the speed champion, but who cares about that? Like, and the speed title would be a fair target for that, but you still just can't imagine anyone burying a championship on their TV. So it's a very interesting statement. But yeah, I definitely think Yuta Ice is petitioning to have like the ace spot. Which obviously Suji's being lined up for, but like Yuta Ice is making a compelling case for himself just off the back of one main event, like, and one speech and one press conference. I don't understand Japanese, but having it translated to me and listening, but also being able to listen to him speak and like the cadence and the passion and the emotion and what have you that he's putting into it, seems like a really good promo to me. As someone who didn't understand a word he was saying, seems like a really good promo. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you watch it in Japanese and you get to actually listen to the promos and understand them. Have I got the right idea there? He seems like he talks really well. Anyway, I have talked for long enough. Too long, what one could say, about this show. But I'm enjoying this foray back into New Japan that I'm taking. Let me know your thoughts on New Year Dash. I thought the show itself, the matches were mostly a bit fillery, a bit middle of the road, a bit who really cares, but the story beats and the things they set up were intriguing, so I'm quite happy with that, especially the United Empire stuff. I'm really interested to see how that plays out when Ospreay comes back from injury. Let me know your highlights, what you thought about the show, what sort of thing I should be looking out for, any details I missed because I've been a lapsed fan for a year. Like, yeah, let me know all that good stuff in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed this review. Subscribe if you'd like to see me cover more New Japan stuff. At the moment, that's certainly my intention, and especially when I got pretty good feedback on the Wrestle Kingdom video, I got a few new subscribers from it, which is really nice. So thank you to you guys if you're watching this. Really appreciated. I don't know what exactly, I should have looked at the schedule. I don't know exactly what the next thing I'll cover will be, but it'll be like the next big show, where, you know, like, where it feels like something big may happen. And I don't mean in the sense that, oh, there's going to be a new world champion, but like a world title match, or like another big title on the line where it could be something significant, big match that feels like a big story beat. Like, not the Road to shows, I won't be covering them. I'll probably watch them, but I won't be covering them. But, yeah. Whatever the next proper show is. Let me know in the comments what the next thing I should cover will be. That, like, anyone who's familiar with the schedule. But yeah, For now, all I have left to say is thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been EBEZA, you've been amazing, and I'll see you next time.